Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Sacred Beast deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck actually makes some really insane plays, summoning out your copies of Raviel, Uriah, and Haman, which is a really insane deck because you can OTK your opponent with just a single one of them or OTK them with all three of them, which is really insane. This deck has some of the highest ceiling for highest attack point monsters in the entire game in any deck that I've ever played, which is really cool. You can get some really powerful plays out on your side of the field, and it's just overall a really fun deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next to come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below where we have all sorts of awesome rewards you guys, like getting your name searched for every single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to our Patreon along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing two copies of Raviel, Lord of Phantasm. So Raviel has a really awesome effect that basically it has the ability that you can tribute summon this card out to your side of the field. It can be special summoned out to your side of the field by tributing 3 Fiend monsters. And then each time your opponent normal summons a monster, you special summon a Phantasm token to your side of the field that has level 1 and it's 1,000 attack and 1,000 attack. And it can't declare an attack either. But then also once per turn you can tribute a monster, and this card gains attack equal to the attributed monster's attack, which is a really good effect, but it only lasts until the end of the turn. But it's an overall really good effect because if you do tribute another Sacred Beast to activate this effect, it will go up essentially to like 8,000 attack points. So it's a really good effect to be able to just gain those attack points. It only gains original attack points, so it doesn't gain any boosted attack points, but it's still pretty good to get this card all the way up to 8,000 to just instantly OTK your opponent with 1 attack. We then play 1 copy of Raviel, Lord of Phantasm's Simmering Scraper. This card is really good too. It can't be normal summon or set. It must be special summon from your hand by tributing 3 monsters, and then you can only use the following effect of this card once per turn. You can either quick effect, discard this card to target a Raviel on your side of the field, and for the rest of the turn, its attack becomes double, or if this card's in your graveyard, you can tribute a monster to add it back to your hand, which is a pretty good effect just to be able to have basically a hand trap, a walking hand trap, to be able to deal with your opponent's cards and double the attack of your Raviel right off the bat. We then play 2 copies of Haman. Haman is really good in the deck too, because Haman is arguably one of the best of the 3 of the Sacred Beasts, because it has the ability that you can send 3 face-up continuous spells you control to the graveyard to special summon this card, and if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, it instantly inflicts 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. And then while this card is in face-up defense position, your opponent cannot target monsters for the attacks except for this one, which is a pretty good effect. And I will mention too, if you guys didn't know this, fun fact, Simmering Scraper is actually Raviel's attack. So all the individual cards like Cerulean Skyfire and Hyper Blaze are actually the attacks of each Sacred Beast, if you guys didn't know that. We then play a single copy of Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames. Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames is arguably my favorite of the 3, actually, because Slifer is my favorite Egyptian god as well. But basically what this card does is it cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summon from your hand by sending 3 face-up trap cards you control to the graveyard, and it gains 1,000 attack for each continuous trap in your graveyard. And then once per turn, you can target 1 set spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy that target. And neither player can activate spells or traps in response to the activation, so it's basically a Night Beam on this card, which is really cool. We then play 3 copies of Dark Summoning Beast. I still really like Dark Summoning Beast as a 3 of in the deck. There's a really cool tech card that I'm playing later on the deck that makes this card even more consistent, which is really nice. And it has the ability to contribute this card to special summon 1 Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your hand or deck, ignoring their summoning conditions. And also, monsters you control cannot declare an attack for the rest of the turn. And also it has the ability that you can banish this card from the graveyard to add 1 Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool effect just to be able to add them from deck to hand to grab the ones that you're missing. We then play 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. Dark Beckoning Beast is ridiculous in this deck and is one of the best cards in the entire deck, because when this card is normal summoned, you get to add a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or 1 card that specifically lists them in their text, except in their copy of itself, to from your deck to your hand. And then once per turn, during your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense, in addition to your normal summoner set. And you guys know how strong cards like that are, that just give you an additional normal summon. They're usually ridiculous, especially when they're in archetype like this. This card is really good in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Chaos Summoning Beast. Chaos Summoning Beast is really good in deck too, because it has the ability that you can tribute this card to special summon any Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your hand, ignoring their summoning conditions, and you banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 Fallen Paradise from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect because essentially when you activate Fallen Paradise, you're going to get a draw 2 right off the bat off the copy of your Fallen Paradise if you control any of the Sacred Beasts, which is really good. So basically this is a instant free summon, and then you also get to not only summon one of them for free, but you also get the effect to add Fallen Paradise, which is going to give you a draw 2 as well. So you're getting a big beat stick and a draw 2, which is so much card advantage, it's ridiculous. We then play a single copy of Yugioh, the Ultimate Forbidden Lord, because it shuffles all the monsters that are in your graveyard back in your deck, which is pretty good, and then special summons itself to your side of the field as a level 10 monster. And we play a single copy of Darkest Diabolos, Lord of the Lair, because Darkest Diabolos is really good in the deck too, because if you do tribute a monster, you can instantly special summon this card to your side of the field, which is super helpful in the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. For these spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of 1 for 1. 1 for 1 is super helpful in the deck to be able to get into your copy of your Chaos Summoning Beast onto your side of the field really quickly, and send like a copy of your Dark Beckoning Beast, or not Dark Beckoning Beast, but a copy of your Dark Summoning Beast to your graveyard to be able to summon out a copy of your Chaos Summoning Beast to your side of the field is really helpful, just to get those cards out onto the field and into the graveyard so you can start using their plays off. 1 copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is ridiculously good in the deck too, because it's easy to use this card in the deck to be able to send exactly what you need to the graveyard, like Darkest Diabolos, your copies of your Chaos Summoning Beast, your Dark Beckoning Beast, your any of your beast cards. They just do really well in the graveyard, and this card basically searches as well, because when you send out your copy of your Dark Summoning Beast to the graveyard and you banish it, you're going to get to add a Sacred Beast from your graveyard or from your deck to your hand, which is super nice. Then play the same copy of Dimension Fusion Destruction. This card is probably my favorite card in the deck. I know it's not super good, but I love this card anyways, because it lets you banish from your hand or field or grave fusion materials that are specifically listed on a Phantasm Fusion monster that special summon that monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, and then you take no battle damage from attacks involving that monster special summoned by this effect. And if you control Uriah, Haman, and Raviel, then your opponent cannot activate cards and effects in response to this. So this card is ridiculously good. I love this card in the deck. Then we played 2 copies of Cerulean Skyfire. Cerulean Skyfire is pretty good. To special summon Haman, you can also use, using its own effect, you can also use face down spells you control as well. And then once per turn, while you control an attack position Haman, then you can negate the any spell or trap effect that's activated by your opponent, and then change 1 Haman you control to defense position. And if an attack, if a face-up Uriah, Haman, or Raviel leaves the field, you take no damage this turn, which is pretty good. We then play 2 copies of Fallen Paradise. Fallen Paradise is just too good to me because it's so searchable in this deck with so many different cards. And your opponent cannot target Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or Armatile on your monster zone with card effects, and also those monsters cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. And then while you control them, if you control a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, then you get to draw 2, or if you control Armatile, you get to draw 2 once per turn, which is really good. Essentially, this card is going to pay for itself really quickly, and is just an overall really good card. We then play 3 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. Opening of the Spirit Gates is arguably one of the best spells in the entire deck, because what this card does, and just when it's activated, you can either add Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or any card that specifically lists them from your deck to your hand. And then once per turn, you can discard a card to special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack from your graveyard, which is really good just to be able to get you a monster on your side of the field. And it also has a really insane effect that if you control a level 10 monster, then you can add 1 continuous spell from your graveyard to your hand. So it's super helpful in this deck just to be able to get those cards out on your side of the field as quickly as possible. We then play 2 copies of Pot of Desires, because you're not super worried about what you banish in this deck, as long as you don't banish every single Sacred Beast off of this, and usually you're going to do your searching first, so this card's pretty good in the deck. And then we played 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, because there's so many dark cards in this deck that I'm not really concerned about banishing, so this card is really good in the deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Skill Drain, because it very much so hurts our opponent a lot more than us, because I'm not super worried about it if I negate the effects of a 4,000 attack point beat stick on my side of the field. It's not that big of a deal. You usually are going to activate this after you've already made all your insane plays anyways. So this card is just going to shut down your opponent. So it's pretty much just turned into a who can summon the biggest monster fight, which is pretty cool. I play a single copy of Hyperblaze. So I saw the comments and I was like, yeah, you know what? I agree with you guys. I really do like, from the last video, I really do like Hyperblaze as one of them in the deck, because it's pretty good with Uriah. Because to special summon Uriah, you can use face down traps you control as well. And then once per turn, when an attack is declared, your Uriah Lord of Searing Flame, with your Uriah Lord of Searing Flames, you can send one trap from your hand or deck to the grave, and its attack becomes the number of face-up traps on the field and in the graveyard times 1,000. So it basically doubles whatever it already is, which is really, really, really good for Uriah, just to be able to get that additional attack points. And then also has the ability that once per turn, you can discard a card to add from your deck to your hand, or special summon a Uriah Lord of Searing Flames, Haman, or Raviel from your graveyard, ignoring their summoning conditions. So this card is a pretty good one of. We then play 3 copies of Crackdown. Crackdown is a card that I bumped into the deck to be able to tribute summon out my copy of my Dark Summoning Beast to my side of the field, because it also kind of works as like a really good counter to my opponent, because you get to activate this card, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it, and then while you control that monster, it can't attack or activate its effects. And then when that monster leaves the field, you destroy this card, which it does, it is a continuous trap, so it does boost up Uriah as well, which is super nice. And then we play 3 copies of Awakening of the Sacred Beast, which is arguably the best card in the entire deck. When I originally built this deck, I didn't like the card, and I was like, oh, this card's bad. And then I realized, no, this card is insane because of one effect on this card. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys what the whole effect is. This card's effect gains effects based on the number of Sacred Beasts you control on your side of the field. And it has 3 effects. So if you have just one Sacred Beast on your side of the field, each time your opponent normally or special summons a monster, you gain attack equal to the attack of the monster they summoned. That's really good, because you're going to make such an advantage against your opponent. This is literally like a Spooky Dogwood in a trap form all the time, though. And then 2, it negates the activated effects of all monsters your opponent controls. That's really good. It just is a skill drain, essentially, for your opponent. And then 3, any monster your opponent sends to the graveyard is banished instead. And that's okay. But all 3 are really powerful effects. But I really like the 1 and the 2 effect because they're so powerful just to stop your opponent to level the playing field. And also, once per turn, even to a level 10 monster, you can add a continuous trap from your graveyard to your hand, so it can just roll Crackdown over and over again, which is ridiculously good too. So this card is really good as a 3-of in the deck, and I really like using it in combo with Crackdown, because basically these cards are just going to constantly, this is going to roll your Crackdowns to be able to constantly be taking your opponent's monsters, which is really good. So that's it for the traps, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of the Armityle, the Chaos Phantom, Phantom of Fury, which Phantom of Fury is pretty good. It's okay. I like it. But this card basically takes Uriah, Haman, and Raviel to summon to your side of the field and becomes Armityle while it's on the field. And then once per turn, during your main phase, you can give control of this card to your opponent. And then once per turn, during the end phase, if this card's control was changed this turn, you banish all cards you control. And then the owner of this card special summons an Armityle from their extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. This card's pretty good if you know your opponent doesn't really have an out to get rid of it, but the only downside of this card is they can use it for link materials. The only way that I feel like they could have made this card better is the owner of this card cannot special summon monsters, or they can't special summon. I feel like it would have been a lot better of a card if they would have given it that effect too. We then play a single copy of Armityle. Armityle is really good because basically it becomes 10,000 attack points during your turn, which is pretty good, and it can't be destroyed by battle, and this card gains 1,000 attack during your turn only, which is pretty good. You're basically going to OTK your opponent with this or bust, so it's a really good card. We play a single copy of Juggernaut Libby. You play so many level 10s in the deck, it's really easy to go into this using one of your trains, which for the trains, we're playing number 81, Rail Cannon Super Dora, and a single copy of Gustav Max. These cards are really good in the deck too, because you can overlay these, use their effects off, and then go into Juggernaut Libby extremely quickly. And then one of my favorite cards in the entire extra deck is number 35, Ravenous Tarantula. This card's really good because all monsters you control gain attack equal to the difference between your life points and your opponent's life points. Now there's an effect. Why did I say it was good? Guess what? This card makes you gain life points every time your opponent normal summons. So basically, every time your opponent normal summons, you're gaining the attack of those monsters. All of your monsters are gaining the attack of your opponent's monsters. So this combo right here is an instant game win. And what I was talking about in the very beginning of the video, that if you make this against your opponent, you've essentially won the game, because your opponent's going to have a really tough time dealing with a 20 to 30,000 attack point monster unless they're maining Magic Cylinder, and in which case you've lost. which is hilarious, which has actually happened to me once. But basically what this card does is you're going to summon it out to your side of the field, and then all your Sacred Beasts and all your monsters are going to gain attack points equal to the difference between yours and your opponent's life points. I've had a gap of like 20,000 where they summoned a bunch of monsters and took the challenge against Awakening of the Sacred Beasts, and I ended up with a Haman, Raviel, and Uriah on my side of the field with this, and ended up, I think, with like, I think I had like 60 or 70,000 damage on board, which was ridiculously good. We then play for the Link monsters. We're going to be playing quite a few Link monsters in the deck. So for the Link monsters, we're going to be playing a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is really good to be able to pop cards on your side of the field or your opponent's side of the field. And it just with all the attributes you play in the extra deck, it's really easy to summon. One copy of Appaloosa. Appaloosa is really good because it just gives you additional negations. One copy of Unicorn because it spins stuff. One copy of Phoenix because it pops spells and traps. Cerberus because it pops monsters. IP because you can go into your copy of Appaloosa or your copy of Phoenix really easily with this card. Anaconda because you can use the Destruction Fusion in your deck with this card to go into it really quickly. One copy of Linkuriboh because you can use a lot of your level 1 monsters in the deck to be able to go into this card. And a single copy of Alamirage because Alamirage is weird in this deck because you can normal summon out your copy of, say, your Dark Summoning Beast or any of your Summoning Beasts and they get negated. Then you can link them away to get their graveyard effects with your copy of Alamirage, and then you get to keep the Alamirage on your side of the field to protect your Sacred Beast. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to play. I hope you guys give this deck a try because I absolutely love the way that this deck plays. It's really fun, and it's an overall really good deck because it's just like, this deck can surprise you. Like, you might look at this deck and go, oh, it's a bunch of brick. No, this deck is consistent and it is fun. And I am really excited to do stuff with this deck on the channel. So anyways, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can come for our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.